I recently read a book I loved, immediately realized we don't have it published in Portugal. So I even tried contacting a few publishing houses in order to bring it to us, to translate to Portuguese. Anyway, so I gifted the book to a friend and she asked, "Are you going to interview Cecilia Ahern?" And I didn't think it would be possible. It's a best-selling author, 25 million books sold worldwide, published in 40 countries, won several awards. And then Cecilia said yes. Thank
Just took
you.
me a while to get me.
No, but it's okay. So you're an author of several books, the classic million copy bestseller P.S. I Love You. So have you met it was adapted to the cinema with Gerard Butler and Hilary Swank. Have you met them?
Yes, yes, it was very exciting. Yeah. It was they filmed in Ireland. So even though it was a New York film, they came to Ireland for a couple of weeks and I got to go on set and I got to meet the actors and spend a little bit of time with them. So that was very exciting.
Of course, I have a crush on them both.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah. They're so talented. Yeah, and they're both
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, they are. And you also have Love Rosie, another
Yeah.
book adapted to the cinema with the actress from Emily in Paris. She's Lily Collins, and the actor from Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, Sam Claflin.
Yes, yeah, and I love that film. Um, and it's still like people are still. I suppose it wasn't as big as P.S. I Love You, but it's still people are watching it, and people are still finding it. So I think it's that slow. It's like a slow, quiet one that people love when they find it. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I'm lucky to have
it's great,
those
and it's
amazing actors.
yeah, and congratulations with that. So, P.S. I Love You, everybody knows. Even in Portugal, of course, it's more popular. And you have several books translated into Portuguese, but not yet the one that I chose to talk about. But then P.S. I Love You has a sequel, Postscript,
That's
for those,
correct.
for those who don't know. Coming in October, you have a new book, Into the Storm.
Yes, yes, I know. I'm excited. It's my 20th novel.
Wow. You want to talk a little about it?
Okay. Would you like me to? Yeah.
Sure. Sell it away.
It's about a character she's a GP. So it's Dr. Enya is driving through the Dublin Mountains on a very stormy night. And she is flagged down by a taxi driver who's come across a teenage boy on the road. And she provides life-saving CPR, saves his life, but she's drawn into this hit and run investigation. And she's already a little bit wobbly. As a person, she's reaching the age that her mother was when she passed away. So she's kind of facing what she thinks is the death age. And she started to withdraw from her life and family already. And this really knocks her off course. So she moves from the city into a rural town to become a GP. And it's really about her. I suppose things being uncovered, um, cleansing, trying to forgive herself because there's an awful lot of things that have happened and an awful lot of secrets that come out throughout this investigation.
Wow.
So
What does GP stands for?
GP is general practitioner. It's
Okay.
a family, your family doctor, that kind of.
Okay. Okay. Clínica Geral in Portuguese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking forward to it, Into the Storm, coming in October. And the last book I read from you, which I was totally in love, and I'll show it here because we are on Zoom, in a thousand different ways. This book was so special, and I keep forgetting stories, and I can't forget this one.
Oh, thank you. This book is so special to me, actually. I think it is my favorite. I think P.S. I Love You and In a Thousand Different Ways are, well, I love all of my books. I just connected very personally to those. And I think it's because whatever was going through my life at that time or whatever was going on with me, I was really just putting myself into them. And so for that, I kind of left a little part of myself in those books. But
Wow.
so I'm delighted that you love it.
I did. It's very special. So Alice sees the worst in people and the best, right? So she's a child. It's actually at the same time it's a coming of age story, but it's a child that sees the color, the aura on people, right? So why is that person smiling when her color is blue? So she's sad. Why is she smiling? I loved this because it's also true. It really happens. No, you can have sadness behind your smile.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to write about what it's like um, to be well, kind of introverted, but also to be very empathetic and what it's like to feel what other people are feeling, because not everyone has that. Not everyone knows what it's like to be an empath. And if you are one, you take on a lot of what is around you, like the moods of other people, the energies of other people, and it can be quite exhausting. So I wanted to write about that, but I thought, how can people understand what it is to look at someone and feel how they feel? And I thought the use of color would be the best way to do that, because very basically, if someone's angry and they've got red around them and you see the red traveling to you and it travels to you and suddenly you're red and angry, I thought the color would just explain more simply how energies can be transferred. So yeah, it's kind of it's she doesn't love it, she doesn't see it as a
Yeah,
a gift. She doesn't want it as a
she
curse.
sees it as a curse.
Mm. Just to she doesn't want to have anything to do with people. She wants to hide herself away and just try and figure out her own life instead of being dragged into other people's feelings all the time. So the novel, as you said, goes from childhood all the way to the end of her days. It's her entire life and how she learns to deal with this kind of what she sees as a curse and how she sees it as a gift by the end of her life.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's well, sure, it's a little bit fantasy because she actually sees the colors,
Yeah.
but it's so real because it's energy. And I always say that if I have a bad humored person next to me with I call it a black cloud on top of him,
Yeah.
I usually get that black cloud. I get influenced by others' energy, so it's true.
If you're driving and someone, annoys you on the road and all of a sudden their anger travels, their road rage kind of travels to you. People know what it's like. But if you're not even into like, spiritual or woo-woo kind of things, it's not that. It's the basic thing of picking up on other people's energies, which we all experience. But I took it to the next level for fiction, but also for someone who's highly sensitive and really deeply affected by energies, by
Yeah,
people,
it's
by
great.
interaction.
It's great. Congratulations. So in a thousand different ways, I'm still struggling to bring it, to to call the attention of the publishers. You're from Penguin now in
Oh,
Portugal, so I'm talking to them, and I hope this conversation helps as well.
thank you. Well, I will really appreciate it if you get I want them all to be published in Portugal.
Yeah,
And
me
people keep
too.
contacting me and they're saying, when will it be out and why is it not out? And I don't know the answers, but thank you for trying on my behalf.
Yeah, I am. I am. So now let's get to know Cecilia as a writer. So you're as a reader, you're a writer, a mother of three. When are you able to read?
Do you know what I have I just kind of not been reading as much as I want to over the past few years. And only recently, in the last few months, I've started again. And as soon as I've started, I can't stop now. And I've always got a book in my hand. And I'm so happy to be back. I think it was a mixture of having my daughter, who's 4 now. So she's not a baby anymore, but I just
Oh,
found it
she
hard.
is. She's
Yeah,
four.
but
She's a baby.
she's still my baby.
Yeah.
We're just not having that extra time, and then there was pandemic and all of that, and I just my even though I was able to write because I think my mind wanted to go elsewhere, I wasn't able to concentrate on reading. So the last couple of years I've been really bad, and now I'm back reading again, and I'm so happy. And I think what it is I have to change the habits. I have to put the phone down and stop getting lost in the wormholes of social media. Um, Also, like I think when I read, I have to give up something else, and so I have to not iron or have the book with me in the car. So if I have a few minutes, like waiting for the kids to come out of whatever classes they're doing, I can read for a few minutes. So it's just reclaiming that time back again for reading.
Yeah, that's a great idea to bring the book with you. Of
Yeah, yeah.
course. Great. So you would like to have lunch or dinner with Amy Bender. Tell me about her. Do you
Yeah.
know her?
No, I've never met her.
Okay.
And she's one of my favorite authors, and she's written the first one I read was The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake. And it was just so beautiful. She writes absurdist, surreal fiction. And I feel like there aren't many that I know of, there aren't many particularly female writers that write that kind of thing. Um, and I'm really drawn to that. I'm really drawn to writing, like as we just talked about, the last book was slightly different. And that's where my mind goes every single time I want to create. It goes to this what if this happened in the world? What if? Instead of writing about straightforward life. And I would just love to talk to her because she does it unapologetically all the time. And she's written this fantastic a collection of short stories called The Color Master and also The Girl in the Flammable Skirt. And they are so obscure, such odd stories. But when I read them, I'm like, I get it. I totally understand where she's coming from. And I never meet authors like that. So I feel like I would like to meet her and have a chat with her and just to kind of, for myself, selfishly meet someone else who might think like me and think, why are we like this? Where does it come from? Um, and I think that would be a really fascinating lunch to have. I've read a lot of interviews with her, and I love how she doesn't explain. You know, I've seen where people say, "What does that story mean?" She goes, "Whatever you want it to mean." And I think I spend so much time explaining my stories to people. I would love to just be able to say, "It doesn't matter. It's whatever it means to you." So she
Yeah.
has a real kind of, yeah. She's I believe from reading that she's a creative writing teacher in a university. So
She
yeah, I
is,
think
she is.
an interesting conversation to have with her, just about absurdism and realism and the power of it and how it can not just write about what people consider weird things, but it's always very grounded. So I think it shines a light on human truth in a way that linear fiction doesn't. You know, to me it makes more sense to me. Anyway, I could talk about it for ages, as you could see, but yeah, I just fascinated with how her mind works and would love to talk about her mind.
Yeah, she was in the past. She taught a class in surrealist writing at the UCLA Extension Writers Program, and this is beautiful about her because she was a senior artist at the nonprofit theater workshop, the Imagination Workshop, helping mentally ill and at-risk individuals to write, direct, and act in their own theatrical creations.
That's lovely.
It's lovely. And
Yeah.
she's a close friend of Alice Sebold, you know, the author of The Lovely Bones.
Ah, well, maybe we could all go for lunch.
Exactly.
She writes about. It's interesting that you say that about the people she works with. She really write the characters have so much depth. They're such, I suppose they're real people, but she really goes to dark places in the most unusual ways. So you don't realize that you're reading something so deep and dark because it's on the surface it seems so nonsensical. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
she really goes there very deep, and it makes it a kind of easier pill to chew to swallow, I think, when you're reading about those kinds of issues in a more playful way.
Yeah. Have you read The Lovely Bones?
I haven't, but I feel like I have because it's such a famous story, and I
Yeah, I
love to go back.
recommend it to you. It was
Yeah.
a book. Well, actually, the friend that I gave your book to, that I gave her on her birthday in a thousand different ways, your novel, was the friend that gave me The Lovely Bones a couple of years
Ah,
back. And it was a book that helped me throughout mourning. I had lots of friends. We were teenagers, and this book helped me a lot. It was beautiful, and I still remember it.
yeah. I think that the topic is hard, isn't it?
It
It's
is. It's
difficult.
a teenage girl that gets murdered,
Yeah.
and
So
it's
I remember
her
at the
point of
time,
view.
yeah. I remember thinking, oh, I don't know if I can. You have to be in the right mood, but I know it's beautiful, and I've seen part of the film as well. Yes, I should read that one. Thanks.
Yeah, I recommend to. I also avoid sad books. I love when I cry with a book, but if I know beforehand that the book is sad, I think I avoid it. But this one was special and beautiful, so
Yeah.
yeah, I
You have
recommend.
to be in the right mood for certain books, and I always have a pile of too many books to read, and it's
Yeah,
like, which mood am I in now? Do I want to? I think
yeah,
I have to be very balanced, very in a good mood to be able to read something hard. Not at
yeah.
my weak wobbly moments, you need to be tough and strong.
Exactly. And we
Yeah.
have children, so these topics are harder to.
They
I
are,
wasn't a mother when I read it. I wasn't a mother. It's different. But
yeah,
you,
I recently picked up a book. It was about something happened to a baby, and I couldn't get past it. I used to just read, even if I didn't enjoy a book, I used to read the entire thing. I had the time to give this book, but now if I don't connect with it straight away, or if it's something that makes me feel ugh, it's just gone.
yeah,
I
that's
just
correct.
can't do it. I have to protect myself.
Exactly. And you have too many books to read.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the books you loved reading and your love for series, and we'll get there, started early because the first book you chose for this conversation is a series, The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton.
Yes, yeah. There's a series of three, and the first one is the faraway tree. That's the
Mm,
first first book. And I'm trying to think what age I was when I read this, but it must have been, 7, 8, 9. I'm guessing that was the age. And the reason why I chose this book is because, well, for the author as well, because Enid Blyton definitely was, my big introduction to reading. And after this, I read The Famous Five, which was, about five people solving crimes. And so this collection that I'm talking about and that one kind of really informed what it is. I still do now, which is so I'll tell you about this book. So it's about three children who move from the city to the countryside. And they live in this they live behind them is what they call the Enchanted Wood. And they find this enormous tree, which is called Faraway tree. And on the tree, there's lots of different characters that live in houses that are carved into the tree. And as they're climbing up, they meet all these different characters. And I'll go into later. But at the very top, there's a ladder which goes up into the clouds. And at the top of the tree, there's a different land. And the land moves all the time. So if they spend a certain amount of time, they have to get down really quickly, or else it moves on and they get stuck there. So every day there's a different land. So the very first land that they go into is called the roundabout, where everything is like turning round and round. There's the land of birthdays, where everything is a party every day. There's the land of do as you please and take what you want. So there's good lands and there's bad lands. There's lands that they want to get out of very quickly, but they go up there with characters that live in the tree. So they meet a friend called Silky, who's a kind of a pixie or an elf, and she accompanies them. There's also Moonface, who has the face like a moon. There's Mr. What's his name, who can't remember his name. Mr. Saucepan, who is partially deaf because the saucepan that he's wearing makes so much noise he can't hear what anybody is saying. And I remember this book like I lived it. Like my mind has got the visual images of the adventures they had.
You climbed the tree with the children.
And it was illustrated as well, so I would look at the pictures and I lived it with them, which and so magical and so powerful and so clever that the different worlds, it would change every time. So I'd be excited, what world are they going to be in? But also there was always this kind of panic of, are they going to get out on time? Are they going to be stuck in this land? Not forever, but for a long time. And then to get down off the tree, their friend Moonface has, I think it's called the slippery slope or slippery slide, which leads from his house at the top of the tree. It's a slide that goes all the way down the tree, down to the bottom. And that in itself is so much fun. So they have these adventures, and then they go all the way back down the slide, back home to their mom, who is none the wiser of what they've all experienced. And it's just, and I think to be perfectly honest, I think that's still, I'm so inspired by it. I look at, whenever it comes to me writing a novel, I think, right, what land is my character in today? What my characters have gone up to the top of the tree. What is the land today? I think that for each novel. So it has inspired me in so many different ways. Yes, so that's my first.
That's great. Have you given that book to your children?
Yes, when they were younger. Yeah, I did. Particularly my first, because I was so eager and excited for them to love the things that I love. And then, of course, that
Yeah.
that kind of fizzles out when you go, oh yeah, everyone's going to have their own their own favorite. So I have not yet introduced it to my third, but I will, I think. And it's actually been made into a film, I've heard recently.
Okay, The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. She's also known in Portugal because she has Famous Five. We have it also in Portuguese.
Oh,
Cinco. And Noddy, the youngest, the youngest children. Noddy, the character, the elf, he has a yellow car. You know Noddy?
Noddy, yes, of course, yeah.
So it's also.
Did Enid Blyton write that?
Huh?
Did Enid Blyton write that?
She did. Nobody knows that. That's so cute. Yeah, she did. Noddy's from Edith Blyton.
Gosh, she's really done all the greats.
Yeah, she was a genius. So another book you loved, and we have it translated. I've read it because you know Alexandra Potter, the British author.
Yes.
She chose this book as well, and I read it, and I loved it. The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be unique here. This is one of my favorite books. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's so clever. It's so romantic, and yet it's dark and it's very atmospheric. it's considered by some to be science fiction, but I don't even see that element of it. I just see this. It's about a character named Claire, whose husband, Henry de Tamble, is a librarian, and he has this rare genetic disorder, which means it's called chrono. I wrote it down because I knew I'd
Chrono
forget.
impairment.
Oh, thank you. Who needs a person when I have you? It's called chrono impairment,
Yeah.
which means he involuntarily jumps back and forward through time. And what I love it because it's so layered and smart that it makes me keep thinking over and over again, even when you finish the book, you want to go back and discover something new. So when Henry meets Claire for the first time, she is 6 years old and he's an older man, right? So she knows him her whole entire life. And by the time she's 20, she goes to where he's working in the library and she knows him her whole life, and yet he has never met her. And I just, that alone kind of sets the tone for it.
Wow.
Um, and so when he meets her for the first time, he gives her all the dates that he's going to meet her. So she's able to have clothes and food ready for him.
Yeah, because
And
when he travels and he arrives at the certain place near the tree, he's naked.
he's always naked. He's not allowed to bring anything, he's not able to bring anything with him, no possessions, which makes it very dangerous for him to travel. So that's kind of where the darkness comes in because it's dangerous for him. He doesn't want to travel. Um, but he has to learn how to pickpocket and, break and enter buildings and learn to survive in different conditions, which he a lot of the time learns from himself. As a younger man, older Henry teaches him all these tricks to help him survive. So he's looking after himself all the time. When he jumps to the future, he's trying to find medicines that will help cure this or help him manage it. And there's all that kind of wacky stuff that's going on. But at the heart of it, there's a wife who's waiting for her husband to return
She's
all
amazing.
the time. Amazing wife who just loves him so much and is always so worried about him. And and he does get himself into very dangerous situations. Um, and she's just praying that that he'll come back each time alive. There's lovely moments like he'll land after being away and he'll say, "I just saw you as an old woman. I just saw," and that's lovely. But that is also the most heartbreaking part because can I do spoilers on this? Is anyone?
No, no, but
No.
I understand your
Yeah.
temptation. Please avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, but so she knows she's going to see him as an older woman, and that's one of the most moving parts as an older woman when she sees him as a younger man. Um, but it's just a really beautiful, romantic, smart, and beautifully written.
It is.
Um, yeah,
I imagine the author, Audrey Niffenegger. I imagine her with like 1,000 post-its because
yeah,
it was hard. It was,
mm,
it was hard to build the structure for sure.
yeah. And I think that's what really I love about it most, that cleverness of as soon as I finished it, I wanted to go back and then there's things that you see on the second read. It's kind of like the sixth sense, there's there's okay, you start to see things and you can read it again and again. It's very, very clever.
It is. You know that it was the author, Audrey, she was frustrated with love when she began this novel. So she wrote the story as a metaphor for her failed relationships. This is the story behind the book.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful love story of like this everlasting love that it doesn't feel in any way.
That she was frustrated with love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't, it's like it's hopeful. I suppose that the wife is waiting an awful lot, but
Maybe she had a boyfriend that ghosted her.
yeah, exactly. But you don't get that when you read it. I just feel it's a book of two people who love each other so much. Um, I suppose it has that feeling of, when husbands go off to war and the wife is waiting, like it has that kind of old worldy feeling.
Yeah.
It's very modern and it is a classic now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. In Portuguese, A Mulher do Viajante no Tempo. I'll write everything down in the description of this episode. The next book you chose, and I wasn't expecting this because stupidly, because you love writers, you write romances, and you love romances, and now you chose thriller.
Thriller
Car
are my favorite. They're my favorite books to read. Uh,
Karin Slaughter. You said anything by Karin Slaughter, especially the Grant County series, and This Is Why We Lied. It's her last book.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I couldn't. I'm only picking the most recent book because you need one. But it began with the Grant series, the Grant County series, which is a fictional town, Grant County in America, kind of near Atlanta. And it's a main character called Sarah Linton, who is the pediatrician and also the coroner. And her husband or ex-husband at the time was the chief of police.
Okay,
And
ex-husband, of
yeah,
course.
and it's just this like they're violent, you know, and they're awful, but there's so much love in these stories, and it's so smart the way she writes, and I fell in love with it. And then she began this other series called the Will Trent series,
It's on
which is like,
TV, isn't it?
yeah, it's on TV too. I haven't seen it yet, but I just love his character. And so Will Trent is in Atlanta, and he's from the GBI. I think it's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Okay.
And so him and his partner. And then she did this amazing thing where she merged the series. So Sarah Linton from the Grant County series joined with Will Trent in this absolutely, first of all, she'll break your heart. Like there's all this kind of murder and death and crime going on. And then she's weaving in like these friendship and these love stories, and it's just so human. Like everything she's writing, the way she writes about the characters who have either died, she writes them with so much they're not just a name or a statistic, or they have this amazing backstory, and they're going and everything about what she writes is done with so much humanity. So I love it for all those reasons, and I'm addicted to them. They come out every year. It's the book I get so excited about. I've met her numerous times, and the last time I saw her, I met her in the flesh for the first time. I fell at her feet and
Wow.
just worshipped her because I just think she's brilliant. And I just think I love novels, and there are other authors that do it too. Like Irish author Jane Casey, she also does it, but she creates these really strong, amazing male and female, but the female are really amazing characters who just always save the day. They're so smart, and yet they have these incredible love stories that you just want to keep reading. So there's a mixture of both. There's the violence, there's the mystery, there's the crime, there's the whodunit, and then there's love as well.
And you said you by Karin Slaughter, you've read them all.
I've read them all, every single book, and she does standalone novels as well. They're not always in these series, and I read them all. Everything she does is absolutely the best in that genre, I think.
And so for those who don't know this author yet, I haven't read her yet, and I followed her on Instagram actually. When you said when you mentioned her, I said I know this name, and I went to search for her. But they're thrillers, so which one to start with? Which would you recommend to start with?
Now, I think she would say that you can read them in any order.
She does say that about even
Yeah,
about the series.
yeah, but I think that it's always, if you're going to invest in yourself in these novels, you might as well start from the start. Now, I'd have to Google. I can't remember the very first one, but it begins with the Grant County series. So
Okay.
you'd have to go from, because when the characters come together, it's just fantastic to know the history of where they both come from. Um, so the very first one is
It's Blindsided. I've read it all. The series includes Blindsided, Kiss Cut, A Faint Cold Fear, Indelible, Faithless, and Beyond Reach, also called Skin Privilege. She has a website for those who are listening
yeah,
to us.
and it's all
Karin,
explained very well. Yeah.
yeah, and her website is totally user friendly, and all the series are on one page and very organized. So we'll start with the first by Grant County series. That's what you recommend.
I do. I absolutely do. Yeah. And enjoy it. You lucky things. You have so many ahead of you.
We do, but that's a problem sometimes, isn't it? But sure, she has more than 20 instant New York Times best-selling novels, and she was also nominated with several awards. She's published in 120 countries with more than 40 million copies sold across the globe. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's a star.
Okay, Karin Slaughter, the Great County series, and actually anything by her, as you said.
Anything, anything.
So another book you chose, and I've seen it in your stories lately. So you recently read it, Sandwich by Catherine Newman.
Yes. Yes. I chose this because I wanted to do something recent. And I always find that when I talk about my favorite books, I'm always going back to something I read 10 or 15 years ago. and I want to have new favorites, you know?
Yeah,
Favorites.
recent ones.
Yeah, and I read this one. I was like, yeah, I just loved it. It was it's so easy to read. It's about a family who the main character is Rocky. She's in her, I don't know, 40s or 50s. I don't know exactly. And she has two grown-up children in their early 20s. And they go to the same area on holiday every year in Cape Cod in America. And it's funny. It's hilariously funny the way they interact with each other, but it's also this slow reveal. It's like it's peeling layers off each time, and you're getting deeper and deeper as the story goes on. It's based over 1 week on their holiday. Um, and she starts to remember, like they've been going to the same place every year since the kids were born. And so she starts going back in her memories of every summer that they were there and the things that happened. And it slowly reveals some difficult things, secrets that she has that she realizes she needs to share and things like that. So on the surface, it's this playful, funny thing, but like with all life, there's always different things going on underneath. But I think it's called Sandwich because she sandwiched between her grown-up children and her aging parents. And she's in the middle of that. She's also going through menopause. And so she's fighting, kind of not fighting, she's battling with all her own emotions, her anger, the relationship she has with her husband, how amazingly patient he is with everything that she's going through. But there's so much going on with her. She's bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. And it's like a real slow reveal. It's beautiful, really lovely written and really beautifully written and just fun. It's amusing as well.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's amusing because the cover, it's a sandwich slice. It's a bread
Yeah.
slice.
It's funny. I think it looks more playful than it is. You know, the way I think publishers they're pulling you in, I think, on something. And I was reading about it as well, saying, "Oh, this is so funny. This is so funny." I think yes, it is amusing, but it's more serious than it is funny, in my opinion, because of
Okay.
the things that are dealt with. But there's enough humor in there to make it pleasurable to read.
Yeah, great. So Sandwich by Catherine Newman. Great. So now I have a difficult question for you.
Oh.
The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton, The Time Traveler's Wife, Audrey Niffenegger, Grand County Series or others by Karin Slaughter, and Sandwich by Catherine Newman. Pick one.
Oh. Well, I think I've made it very easy for myself because I chose the series. So am I up to pick the
Okay.
entire series? Yes, because that means I have like 20 books to read. I'm gonna go with, because it encompasses it all. It's got love, it's got drama, it's got violence, it's got, everything that I love. So
Okay, by Karin Slaughter. That's why I said when I mentioned Enid Blyton, because the Magic Faraway Tree, which is innocent and sweet and lovely, is also a series. So I said your
yeah,
love series started early because now we have Karin
that's
Slaughter.
true. That's true. And as well the famous five. And that's what I'm saying. Like I go from so that kind of absurdism of a different land at the top of a tree, very quirky, to solving crimes. And they're the two things that I still love the most. And it all came from Blyton.
Wow.
Mm.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. Yeah. So now at the end of our conversation, I recommend you readings, but I believe you know them all. So I had trouble choosing what to recommend to you. So there's this book I love. I even brought it, but I have it in Portuguese. But because of the title, I wouldn't go there, and it has nothing to do with the title. Well, it does, but Lessons
Mm.
in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Do you know
Oh,
it?
yeah, I can't wait to read that. I have it it's on my list.
Okay, so put it on top.
I want to read it before I see it because it's on Apple, I think. It's a
Yeah.
TV series now, so I want to read it first and then I'll watch it.
Well, that's
That
great
is,
because that was
yeah,
my top list to recommend to you because I loved it and I recommend to you.
that's an excellent recommendation. I will read that next. Thank you.
Great, great. And well, of course, Jojo Moyes. I would recommend also to you and Marianne Keyes about thrillers. I'm not an expert on anything, of course, but neither on thrillers. But my mother loves thrillers and she loves Sandra Brown.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Okay, so yeah,
Oh, writing
try
it down.
Sandra Brown. And I'll write on the description on our conversation. And then the last one and Liane Moriarty. Have you met her? Have you read her? It's an Australian author.
I've seen her TV shows.
Ah, yeah. People
I
always
thought,
say that. I get
yeah,
frustrated, but read first.
yeah, I know.
Big Little Lies.
So Big Little Lies, and yeah.
And
And I
try
had
my
the great pleasure of working with the people who made Big Little Lies, they also made Roar, my TV series on Apple. So
Ah,
I felt honored because hers was such a huge hit.
it was. Great. So, okay, she has other books I recommend to you. My
Okay.
Husband's Secret, and I love this title, Truly Madly Guilty.
Oh, that's a good one, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll recommend to you. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I love to talk about books any day, anytime.
Okay, well, we'll talk soon again. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Bye-bye. And thank you for our listeners. I stopped
Thank you
recording.
so much.
It was a pleasure.
Right. Thank you. And I'm so sorry it took so many months, but I'm glad we
No, it's
finally.
okay. It's okay. I have a lot of interviews to do, so we
Okay.
have time. I'll let you know. I'll put a tag on you on Instagram, and I'll let you know when the conversation is about to go
And I
to
will
on
let you
air.
know if I manage to get Portuguese publication.
Yeah, I'll be your ambassador.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
You too.